Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Gary Leblanc. Gary is the founder of ZeroDB. His journey began after a transformation driven by personal loss and a profound commitment to wellness. ZeroDB isn't just a company, it's a movement dedicated to enhancing life through unique botanical tonics that promise to quiet mental noise and unlock true potential. Today, Gary will share his journey, the challenges he's faced, and the triumphs he's celebrated in creating a brand that's as potent in its mission as in its promise. Hi, Gary. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to get into this conversation with you.
Right on. Me too. Me too.
Okay, let's dig right into this
Mhm.
conversation. So you transitioned from a successful career as a food executive to launching Zero DB. I have your
Mhm.
drink.
Oh, right on. So
After a
do I.
significant personal loss. Can
Mhm.
you share a little bit more about your story and what inspired you to start this brand?
Mhm. Well, to your points, my whole career, it's kind of classic. Everybody has the same story seemingly, right? We're in corporate and then it wasn't as fulfilling as we thought it was going to be.
Mm,
For me, life's about impressions, right? All these impressions left on you, and it's hard to know when that proverbial straw that broke the camel's back is going to induce a big change in your life. So for me, I was in a situation where I was kind of not feeling really great about things in
mm-hmm,
general. I was in my 30s, and a friend of mine got diagnosed with lymphoma. And it was a protracted battle that he eventually didn't win. And it was a horrible, objectively horrible 3 years. He
mm,
suffered a lot. I was exposed to that. It was one of those things where, you're faced with your mortality a little bit. He was a young guy, a football player, your classic, how the heck did that happen?
mm-hmm,
And, stemming from there, I was always the healthy executive. When I ran plants, I'd be making smoothies when we do charity drives. And, when I was a VP at Bacardi, I was always known as the guy who was in shape, who's always the one pushing for wellness. So it was kind of a natural progression into just taking that next step into it becoming all consuming because I really focused on that with my friend's illness. And then a friend approached me. Literally, he was meditating on a Saturday and he said, "You know what? Why don't you take all the stuff you've been working on? Let's write a book and launch products." He had an e-com business. I was an expert in the beverage space, and yeah, we got rolling.
Wow, awesome. So, what is so special about this brand for you?
Yeah, so ZeroDB is really a culmination of a lot of things. I
Mm-hmm.
started my company about 12 years ago, and it never goes the way you thought it would go. But again, you need to think it's going to go the way you thought it was going to go, or else you wouldn't
Right.
start. So when I started, I had an organic energy drink long before, they became popular, and it was too early. We lost everything. The licensor got out of the business, and we then, pivoted to supplements. I'd written my book, and then we started a wellness platform. So there was a lot
Mm,
that happened before ZeroDB started. And, when the whole cannabinoid conversation started in Canada, I started to really focus on that anti-anxiety aspect to cannabinoids. And I started
mm,
going to conferences, and I met these guys who were three, really incredible scientists who started a company called NTX. There were three geneticists, all PhDs, and they've been studying these plant compounds for a long time. And when I met them, they had been working on, what if there was a better solution than CBD and,
Mm,
everything else that people were talking about. And that's where zero DB started. It was basically reverse engineering the best cannabinoids, which are found in over 100 plants, and taking that and putting it into a beautiful organic beverage for other functions. Because honestly, dialing down chronic anxiety makes everything better. You
yeah.
can't
Yeah.
lose doing that. So we had a calm drink, we had an energy drink, and a focus drink, and having these five compounds to then kind of quell that anxiety in all of them just seemed
Yeah.
like a home run.
Yeah. I love your I use the focus one.
Oh, right on.
Um, yeah, because I just like I have such a hard time quieting my mind
Mm,
because my brain is always going. I take things to sleep. It's just it's really hard for me because I run a company, so I'm
hmm.
always on the go, 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 and it's so
Of
hard to
course.
quiet your mind. But it's also hard to find products that are good for you, that are going to help you achieve a certain goal. uh why did you want to build something that was focused on good ingredients and all of
Mm,
the stuff that you want to talk a little bit more about
sure.
how you've built
Yeah.
this out?
Yeah. It's a great question because you can just toss a bunch of things in a drink, and
Yeah,
ingredients really don't tell a story. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, I don't want to
Well,
say
it's
the
like the
consumer.
energy drinks, like everybody drinks them, but
Yeah.
now people are realizing what's in them and it's like, oh
Well,
crap, this is not good for
exactly.
me, right?
Exactly. And we could get into a whole conversation on the food industrial complex, but trust me, I've seen behind the curtain,
Yeah,
and food companies will do what they need to do to sell products.
yeah,
And they will, I got to be careful with my words. I don't want to sound judgmental, but
yeah.
they'll take advantage of the naivete and the ignorance of the consumer. And it's not, it's not that the consumer should be expected to understand all these things.
Mm,
These are complicated things, like for example, we have B vitamins in our energy beverage. Well, I could easily put 100% of the recommended daily allowance of my B vitamin in there, but I know that we absorb a very little amount of it. So we
mm,
put more than the RDA so people get a real amount of it, but the consumer wouldn't know. So
right.
it's either you're going to build something with integrity or you're not. And if you're not going to build something with integrity, then whatever. A lot of people are going to buy it. You're going to fool them. You know, I don't
Yeah,
believe the I don't believe the ends ever justify the means if
yeah.
it's made without integrity. I just don't fundamentally. Like, I don't care what people say. I haven't always been this way. I used to work for food companies. We were owned by Philip Morris. We were owned by the biggest tobacco company in the world at the time. So back then, I was just making products. I wasn't as attuned to this, but I think fundamentally, you're either going to approach it that way. And, the golden rule is do unto others as they would do unto you. But really, it's do unto others better than they would
Mm-hmm.
do unto you because you know better. And I know
Yeah.
better when it comes to ingredients. We have a lot of extracts in our ingredients that I source from amazing herb farms. St. Francis Herb Farm here in Ontario, an incredible, incredible company. I've been up to Barry's Bay. We're
Mm-hmm.
buying good products because we know it's the best product to put in our drink. Nobody's going to know that. Like if you look at the
Yeah.
ingredient line, it doesn't say that. And our
No.
drink is expensive. The ingredients are expensive. It's probably 10 times more expensive from a formula perspective than your average quote unquote functional drink. But
Yeah.
it's because we made a decision. We made a decision that
Yeah.
people were going to care. Now, again, it's always the old adage, you think more people are going to care.
Mm-hmm.
But when you
But here's
get
the
to
thing,
this,
right? You come from the food space. I'm
yeah,
also in tech in the food space. But so you understand, why sometimes decisions are made to put
yeah,
specific ingredients in a product. It's usually cost related or something like
yeah,
that.
for sure.
Why specifically, why did you make the decision to go completely different?
Well, just because I knew better. And I honestly, if I can't answer a question from somebody who knows better, then I didn't want to carry that every day. Like I didn't want
Mm,
to have to avoid people who know what they're talking about. Well, what about this B12? You have cyanocobalamin. What about methylcobalamin? What
Mm,
about this? What about that? People who know. There's always people who know.
yeah.
So I didn't want to be in a position where I didn't have the best answer. So I developed something where we had the best answer for anything. You could catch me off guard in any situation, on any ingredients, on the dosage, on where it comes from, on anything. And I am so proud of everything we have in there and why we have it. We are the most responsible formula out there just because we have empirical science. We've
Mm,
studied how these work together. That's just how this drink was created from the bottom up. And I'm super proud of that. Like, why
yeah.
would I want to create something that's shit that people buy? I just don't understand the upside. You know, what, you're going to make a few more bucks and you're going to be proud of yourself that you duped a lot of people into
Yeah.
selling a lesser product. It's just not the way I work.
Yeah. I love how you have on the bottle based on neuroscience because it's like really telling me that you actually did the research.
Oh, these guys, I can't say enough about these guys, NTX. These guys are true, true scientists.
Mm,
They're in their 50s and they've been doing this for decades. And when you look at the science behind this, like it's quantitatively measuring the specific neural pathway where a lot of anxiety lives. And we have
mm,
quantitative data on that. So how
yeah.
this was designed is incredible.
Yeah.
And then it's for everybody to see how it works for them.
So, can you discuss some of the significant hurdles you faced in the early stages and how you
Oh
overcame
man.
them?
Yeah, I didn't overcome them.
Oh,
That's the
you're
that's
still
the
working on them?
amazing thing. Well, you know what? I could list 20 reasons why doing business in Canada as a small company is horrible. Uh, e-
Mm.
in Canada, it is, yeah, trust me, I'm scarred. And
Oh.
the some of the hurdles, dealing with the agencies, dealing with the governmental agencies, the seemingly arbitrary application of regulations. Um, how other brands on the shelf didn't have to go through that, but they were supposed to have gone through that, but didn't, and aren't
Mm.
held accountable. Um, the minimum quantities that you have to order as a small company from these
Wow.
from these suppliers, which just, you're ordering $6,000 of one ingredient, where your whole production run would be about $10,000 if you could order the amount of ingredients you really needed. So
Mm.
early on, you're not benefiting from economies of scale. You don't have all of the legal, call it, the legal protection that a big company would have to make those decisions that, I just wasn't able to make. So it's just all of these headwinds. And then when you look at the supply chain in Canada, I don't want to say it's broken, but it's kind of broken.
Mm.
We have
Yeah.
distributors, we have brokers, we have retailers. Do you know how hard it is for a supplier to make a good product? It's almost impossible. I could reverse engineer a $4 drink and it would
Mm.
end up that the liquid you could put in that would be worth about 30 cents. It
Wow.
is completely, completely insane. What the customer is consuming is basically 80% red tape, 80% margin from everybody else except the ones who are making the product. And that's what's so hard about making good products. We're
Mm.
incentivized to make crap products because crap products are cheaper and they sell. Now, this isn't true across the board. There's a lot of great companies who've done well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in beverages specifically, it's hard. It's super, super hard. In the US, it's different. It's completely different. Like I could do a podcast for 5 hours on the difference
Oh,
between
wow.
Canada and the States. Um, I, I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
you know, as far as how
Please.
I've overcome hurdles, I don't know if I've been smart at all. I don't know if
Mm.
I should have bailed a long time ago. Like I had this, I don't know. Like it's hard to know why you continue when things are so hard. And if
Mm-hmm.
I look back, maybe I would have stopped 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like what you're holding there is probably, I've made 50, we have about 100 different formulations of the calm beverage.
Okay.
100. Um, we've done, I don't know, we were doing 30 events, which I would do often with my wife, not
That's
paying
how I met
myself.
you.
Yeah, not paying myself, right? Um, we had third-party labs doing this, but I would be tinkering, like it's just you put so much of yourself in it. And there's the sunk cost fallacy that everybody's heard of, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
invest $1 billion in something, but you're at day zero. So now it's today, and I have two routes. I could quit, or I could put in another $1,000 and maybe make it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not making that decision based on is it better to quit or spend $1,000. I make it on, oh my God, I've already spent $1 billion. I can't stop now.
Yeah.
And everybody can be logical and you can take every MBA course you want. But trust me, the battle inside of you on whether to
Mm.
continue or not is freaking complicated, and it's hard, hard,
Yeah.
hard, hard. And until you don't have any choice, you often continue, and that's the hard thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's just super hard for
Have
entrepreneurs.
you ever considered just moving your whole operation to the US if it makes it easier?
If I do it all over again, I would have launched in the US. There's
Okay.
no way in a million years I would have launched in Canada. No way. Like,
Wow.
yeah, no way.
Wow.
Like if I
It's
was
that hard,
consulting,
eh?
if I was consulting someone right now, I would unequivocally say launch in the Northeast. Um,
Wow.
just for literally a million reasons. If I had to do it all over again. But, hindsight's 2020, and thank God you don't know what you know, because I wouldn't have tried anything. Look, I'm not bitter. I sound bitter.
Yeah. No, you don't. I mean,
Um, I'm just being honest.
yeah.
I'm just being honest. And, it's a lesson I had to learn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look, we learn the lessons we need to learn.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so getting advice from someone, yeah, people can hear this, and hopefully it'll leave a little bit of an impression, and maybe it'll tweak this decision, half a degree to the left, and maybe that half a degree is going to
Mm-hmm.
make the difference.
Yeah.
But in the end, everybody's very, very different, and it's very much an emotional game, I find. If you approach it with an MBA attitude, you probably won't do anything because the odds aren't in your favor from the beginning. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, entering a market with a novel health and wellness product presents its own set of challenges.
Mhm.
Aside from the supply chain challenges you had,
Yeah.
what strategy did you employ to introduce Zero DB to the market, and
Mhm.
how did you position it to stand out in a crowded wellness industry?
Yeah. So that's super hard. Like if you don't have money for marketing, it's super hard to get awareness. And again, I'll just, you know, play this out. If I had to do it over again, what I did, which I think everybody kind of has to do, you need to be in the thick of it, right? You need to go
Mm,
to events. You need to talk to people, right? We live in an echo chamber oftentimes as entrepreneurs, and you get really attached to your product, right? So you got to get out
right.
there. So one of the important things is getting out there and trying to have thick skin. I do not have thick skin when it comes to things I build. I have a little baby girl. She's 6 months old.
Oh, congrats.
I pity the person who's going to be mean to her. So my drinks were very much my baby. And
Mm.
I just wasn't really good, to be honest, at taking constructive criticism. I was
Oh.
far too close to it. But you need to. So you need to grow up, and you need to try to be as objective as possible, because you need to iterate, right? You're an N
Mm-hmm.
of one. You need to really get feedback. So getting out there is one thing. You got to do things that aren't scalable. You've heard this a million times. You have to do things that aren't scalable to scale. So getting out there, I'm proud of all the work we did. We did a lot of events, talked to a lot of people. So I think that's super important. The other thing is sampling, obviously. You know, um, Again, I did this all myself. I would go in store. We
Mm-hmm.
had some agencies too. There's some fantastic agencies that can help out, but really getting to the end consumer, right? So these are
Yeah.
point of sale, really consumer facing activities. When you look at the awareness side of things, you know, you need a lot of money for that. You need deep pockets to get
Yeah.
really the awareness you need to start selling drinks. And you know this, So when you say a crowded space, that's really where the crowded space becomes more relevant. It's very, very, very hard to stand out doing awareness
Yeah.
marketing. And, there's some great econ companies out there. Our product doesn't lend itself to be an amazing econ product because we're shipping a lot of water, so
Mm-hmm.
the supply chain economics aren't great, but you know, you get that aspect of being able to sell a product and you're getting awareness out there and you're A/B testing. So, that ecom play, I think I would have leaned in harder, more aggressively at the beginning to really see if it had legs. The
Mm.
one thing that I would not do is trickle marketing the way I did, and
Okay.
I convinced myself that yes, we have to make a splash, but I never had enough money to make a splash. So I always kind of extrapolated how much money I had to last this amount of time. And I
Mm.
wouldn't do the things I knew I had to do, but I convinced myself that this time it would be different. And it was
Mm.
just myopic and a little naive, but I would have really spent more money in a short time in a more regional way. The problem is the distributors don't let you. Like you can't
Ah.
just focus on Toronto. When you go with a distributor, they're doing it writ large Canada. So you don't have that choice. So there's a lot of things that I was mentioning. You just don't have the choice. So there's a
Mm.
million inefficiencies built into it that you just have to roll with. So I guess to put a pin in it, marketing, get out there, do events, do a lot of sampling. That's really where you're going to stand out. Your personality will stand out. And you hope that people start to love the brand because it really is going to be that word of mouth today
Yeah.
that's going to matter. And that earned, social kind of presence, that's what you're counting on because
Yeah.
awareness marketing is just going to bury you in cost.
Yeah. So is this a replacement for something like CBD, or can it be?
Yeah. So our research was how this was 25 times more effective than CBD by volume.
Mm.
What people don't understand is CBD is a molecule, even though it's quote unquote from a natural plant. And,
Mm-hmm.
hemp contains a very small amount of CBD, by the way. But if you have purified CBD, that's essentially a drug, right?
Yeah.
It's a molecule. And in the doses that the research is at, it could be potentially toxic to your liver. Like these are
Oh.
high amounts of a compound that you're introducing into your body. So really the play with our product was you needed 1/25th of the amount to get the same physiological effect. So
Mm.
it literally looking at that specific pathway for anxiety, that's what we used as a control. We tested this versus CBD just to see how much more effective ours was, and ours
Mm.
was much more effective, and all from plants you would find in typical herbal extracts, echinacea,
Mm-hmm.
hops, cacao, licorice root, beautiful, beautiful extracts, specific extracts, how they were extracted, where they were grown, very, very specific. And it was this magic formulation that created something far superior to CBD.
Yeah. So I've tried your product and I love it. I buy it. But for those who don't know that much about it, are there any side effects? When you do
Hmm.
cannabis or CBD or
Hmm.
THC, there is that high
Sure.
effect to
Yeah.
it. It gives you the munchies and things like that. Are there any side effects when with zero DB?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, we don't have any of those side effects you'd get with a lot of those tinctures, whether they have
Mm,
THC or CBD. Um, every plant, every extract, I'd be irresponsible to say that you might not have a reaction to it. You could have a reaction to anything. People have a reaction to
mm-hmm,
apples, almonds, but all of our extracts are all safe extracts. They're all sold separately. They're all from high-end farms, and we have no allergens in our product. I could tell you some stories about. We got one complaint literally in 2 years, and
okay.
it ended up someone said they were allergic to cherry. And it
Okay.
says cherry on our product. It's cherry juice. It's organic cherry flavor, and it smells like literally cherry. So
Right.
you know what? Anybody can have a reaction with anything, but no, it's an extremely extremely safe product.
Awesome. And can it be an energy drink as well?
Yeah, so we have one for calm, we have one for energy, and we have one for focus. So the one for energy, we use organic green tea extract. It's about the same caffeine as about a shot of espresso, so about 80 milligrams of caffeine. And then we have a supercharged B vitamin complex, like I mentioned
Mm,
earlier. So
yeah.
it gives you two dimensions of energy. You know, these are nuanced conversations. Like you might not have energy because you have a B vitamin deficiency, or you might
Mm-hmm.
not have energy because you're drowsy. So caffeine's going to help park in those same spots that adenosine parks in. Like there's a lot of chemistry behind these choices. So that's what we use for the energy. And then we have the five extracts to give you anxiety relief at the same time. So it's a super beautiful
Yeah.
natural alertness. And then in the calm, we add Chisandro, which is an adaptogen. So it helps to modulate cortisol, which is a stress hormone, a hormone we
Mm-hmm.
need. But when you're constantly producing cortisol because you're constantly anxious, well, that becomes
Yeah.
debilitating. So we have Sisandra from our friends at St. Francis Herb Farm, and we have a magnesium, which is great as a muscle relaxant with the five extracts as well. So you have three dimensions of calm, and then you are drinking focus, which is
I
the
love it.
anxiety modulating. And because a lot of people, the reason we can't focus is because we have a monkey mind. Like you mentioned it earlier,
Yeah, that's
we
me.
kind of all do, like everything's a spectrum. We live in a binary time right now. Everybody's saying
Yeah.
you're this, you're that. We're full of labels, but it really is a it really is a spectrum conversation we're always should be having. We're not
Yeah.
having, but we should be having. So, you know, if your mind never stops, well, you know what? Maybe you need a pharmaceutical solution. But for a lot of
Mm,
people, we just have this underlying monkey mind that's always there. So that's
yeah.
really what we're about. We're there to help you deal with that chronic distraction so you don't
Yeah.
have to always be focused on
Yeah.
something, for you not to get distracted. You can take a breath and you're not being pulled in a million directions. You can just breathe.
Yeah. I love the simplicity of the product. I love how you're very transparent about everything that's in it.
Mhm.
And I like every ingredient, like I actually searched it up and looked it up
Oh,
and I
beauty.
love the ingredients that you have in it. I really like
Mhm.
the product in general. But let me get to my next question, which I think is
Yeah.
also important. What challenges have you encountered in
Mhm.
scaling your operations? And how have you addressed supply chain, production, and distribution issues? Because I know you said
Mhm.
that was a big problem, but how did
Yeah.
you, and you're probably still going through it, but how are you
Yeah.
overcoming some of those challenges?
You know what? The only way you overcome a lot of that is obviously there's going to be some efficiencies. You make
Mm,
mistakes. Everybody's
yeah.
going to make mistakes. Hopefully you avoid big mistakes. Hopefully you avoid stupid mistakes. My background's operations. So I avoided pretty much pretty much all the stupid mistakes on supply chain. Otherwise, what would have been the point of my experience? Um,
Mm,
but really, it's scale. It's scale that's going to solve those problems. And unfortunately, we're not designed from a supply chain perspective for a startup. You are going to have inefficiencies. You just can't avoid it. So, again, I would focus more on accepting the inefficiencies that were dealt with, minimum
mm,
production runs, cost for, the minimum order versus at scale, it's half price. Like, my cost would go down 40% if I just made more. How easy is that?
right.
Like how easy is that? You're making more, you're selling more, and your product gets cheaper. It really is the kind of pain that starting up is. It's just not
Yeah.
efficient.
So where can your drink be
Mm.
purchased?
Yeah, so online we have a store locator at drinkzerodb.com. We're in about between 300 to 400 stores,
Wow.
better stores, right?
That's a lot.
The Nature's Emporiums of the world, the Big Carrots of the world here in
Yeah. Okay.
Toronto. But your wellness stores, because we're a premium product, not everybody is going to want to afford it. Everybody can afford it, obviously. It's $5 a
Yeah.
drink, but it's what people prioritize, right? Some people aren't prioritizing $5 drinks that are going to help them feel a little more
Yeah.
centered. So it
Yeah.
really is those, higher end wellness stores where we typically sell a product.
So it's your customer base are already health focused. They want good ingredients. They want
Typically,
things that are
yeah,
good for them. Yeah. Do you think
exactly.
you could expand your market just by more education?
Oh, for sure. Like, look, if you spend 5 minutes with me, I'll talk your ear off and you'll probably buy a drink. Now you multiply that by a million, 5 million out, 5 million times 5 minutes, and I'm pooched. I think I'd be 1,000 years old. So it really is the crux of the matter. It's really, really hard to educate. And
Yeah.
look, our attention span's zero right now. It truly
Yeah.
is zero. Selling good products, look, again, I don't want to sound cynical, but selling good products that aren't obvious is just super hard. It's just
Mm.
nobody has the attention span anymore. Like it is crazy. Like
You
again, I
you
mentioned
don't think
before,
people are changing a little bit their
no, I
mentalities?
don't think
No?
people are changing at all. I
Mm.
now again, people are becoming more aware, but
Yeah.
there's a difference between becoming more aware and not being distracted if something
Mm.
is longer than 10 seconds. You know,
Right.
you can be more aware and still not have an attention span. Through osmosis, you're going to learn. But for me to really, really educate you on something, I need your attention. And that's super hard. You
Yeah.
know, we're researching groups right now just in the wellness space. And I'm always blown away by how I live in an echo chamber. I live, my groups of friends, look, they've been friends with me for a while, and I rub off on them in a lot of ways. So I live in an echo chamber of people who are more aware. But
Mm-hmm.
when I step out of that, it's scary to see how little people really understand once you get down a layer. And it's no judgment. There's a lot to pay attention to, and there's
Mm.
just a lot of noise. Like,
Yeah.
look, I don't have TikTok. God forbid I have TikTok. You know, I can't even imagine how people parse what's truth and what's not reality. So yeah, we're becoming more aware, but what are we becoming more aware of?
Mm.
And it's not going to get better, not at all. We're gonna have to take a step back and really have some hard conversations about how, as a society, where we're consuming content and what content we're
Mm.
consuming and being more
Yeah.
aware of where it's coming from and the expertise of people. It's a super hard problem to solve.
Yeah.
And again, zero judgment. There's a million
Well,
things
I
that.
think everyone's an expert now. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, who said that? Socrates? I think Socrates said it. It's not the person who doesn't know anything that is the problem. It's the person who thinks they know everything
Yeah.
and doesn't, because that hubris will enable them to then share this broken message, share this
Yeah.
false message, which is what a lot of people are doing. I don't usually remember quotes. I could have done a better job of that, but effectively, the danger is, to your point, everybody thinks they're an expert, and if you have charisma, people will believe
Mm.
you,
Yeah.
and it's a very dangerous place to be. Look, I caught myself. I'm reading a book right now called Blind Spots by Marty McCarty, and it talks about, I think 7 to 10 times in history where the medical establishment got it wrong. The guidance on allergies and eating peanuts before kids were 3,
Mm.
hormone replacement therapy for women based on the World Health Initiative. This is when the establishment got it wrong for years. So
Yeah.
the medical establishment got it wrong, and we're expecting just an average person on the street to be able to discern what's fact from fiction. It's super, super hard, and
Yeah.
we need some way to give people a trusted source of wellness content,
Yeah. I
as a
love
great
it.
example. Small self.
It's true. Well, we're almost coming up on time, but before
Sure.
we wrap up, I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
What are your aspirations for Zero DB in the coming years? And how do you plan to evolve the company's products and mission to meet future
hmm
wellness needs?
hmm That's a tough question for me right now, because right now I'm at a crossroads. Um,
Okay.
I'm at a crossroads um, on how much gas I have in the tank. So, if I saw the future of zero DB with me involved or not involved in it, um, I would see the beverages, to be quite honest with you, there's not a heck of a lot I would change from a functional perspective. What I would
Mm-hmm.
love to do would be obviously get the drinks out there, get the awareness around it, and dovetail that into just more education, more events, more
Yeah.
opportunities to give back. And really, that was always the mission. Build a
Yeah.
business that can sustain a philanthropic angle, which is, you know, my first book was Find Your Superhuman. I wanted to launch Superhuman Kids and going to schools because really getting to kids in the grade 7, 8, 9
Yeah.
range, you can really make an effective change. And I wanted the beverages to be able to fund me being able to do that for free and do
Mm.
what I enjoy. Like I really do enjoy talking to people about this and educating.
Yeah.
So it'd be less about selling more products, more about making the products more relevant for people, and then really about educating, which is where my
Yeah.
passion truly lies.
So I just have one more question for
Yeah,
you because
yeah,
you just
shoot.
made a point and I don't want to bypass it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just said that you don't know how much fuel you have left in the tank.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point because entrepreneurs go through that journey all the
Yeah.
time. So when you say that, like, does that mean that you are thinking about wrapping it up, or are
Hmm.
you setting your company up to be able to operate and run without depending so much on you so that you can do the things that you really care about? And I think this is a good question because every
Hmm.
entrepreneur at some point is going to find
Yeah.
themselves in that place.
Hopefully, hopefully they'll find themselves in a place where they do have the choice.
Yeah.
Right now it would be an acquisition kind of conversation that I'd be
Mm-hmm.
looking at because there's a difference between running out of money and there's a difference between starting to resent the
Mm.
journey. And
Oh.
you definitely don't want to resent the journey. And I'm never going to look back because it's super hard. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
super, super, super hard. I gave so much of very valuable time. I'm 52 right now. I gave my 40s to this. I was a VP when I was 32, I think, or 33. I'm 52.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 20 years ago. So I gave up my 40s of earning potential for these products. So you get to a point where you're dangerously close to resenting what you've
Mm-hmm.
done. And I don't. Um, Dangerously close at times, but I don't because look, we learn the
Yeah.
lessons we need to learn. I fundamentally believe that. And thank God I did this. Thank God I did this because I needed to learn what I needed to learn for me to be where I'm at today. And I think if I was an entrepreneur, I would really, as far as getting to your question, running out of gas, obviously, I think there's a certain shelf life to how much you can give to something. So it
Mm-hmm.
it does, I believe, have to evolve. It has to evolve into something. So when you
Yeah.
feel yourself running out of gas and starting to resent things and starting to kind of lose that childlike passion, I think, yeah, to your point, you do have to find other structural things you could do to kind of pull yourself from it
Mm-hmm.
and not box yourself in too much. Yeah, look, I'm in the thick of it right now. Look, it's almost Christmas. I always get pensive at Christmas. So,
Yeah.
and I just had a baby. So
You
when you
did,
have
yes.
yeah, she's 6 months old and she's wonderful. And she, she's a singularity in my life.
Yeah.
It changed, my brain rewired overnight. Um,
Wow.
and it rewired in the sense that every other impression made upon me was transmuted into a new brain
Yeah.
and how I saw risk and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to do it with. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting holiday. I go back to Cape Breton, that's where I'm from. We're going to be in the woods right on the ocean and with my family and a lot of time to mull things over.
Love it. Love it. Well, Gary, thank you so much for joining me today and being vulnerable and sharing your journey. I mean, I love your product. So
Thank
if
you.
anyone is listening, go check it out. But I mean, thank you for just being open to,
Mm,
being authentic about where you are and some of the struggles you've been through. That's entrepreneurship for you, right? There's all the
for
highs, but
sure.
then there's the lows. The lows are low.
Yeah, the lows are where you
Yeah.
learn, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. But thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
time.
Thanks so much.
And that's a wrap. I want to thank Gary for sharing his journey and insights with us today. It's clear that Zero DB is more than just a beverage. It's a testament to the power of turning personal challenges into opportunities for growth and impact. Your story is a powerful reminder of how passion, when paired with innovation, can create a transformative business that resonates deeply with consumers. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.